Chapter 7. Sonic Remembers, and Where Slasher Got Her Wings. He thought he had learned to live with the idea of the continuum, but as he lay there in his hammock that night, he found it still terrified him. What emphasized it was this. Out his window, across the treetops, he could see one bright star. It didn't move. Sonic stared at it and stared at it, his mind a turmoil of horrible thoughts. Probably Sonic porn. At last he fell asleep, but his eyes closed with the light of the star in them. Perhaps that is what caused his dream. Or perhaps not. It wasn't real. It wasn't really a dream. It wasn't really a dream. It was more like a floodgate of memories opened in his subconscious mind. Suddenly, he was reliving his previous adventure on Floating Island. Bright and fast the memories hit him, exploring the island with Tails at his side. Knuckles stealing the Chaos Emeralds, falling into Hydrocity. Hydrocity? Hydrocity? Hydrocity. Finally escaping and winding up in the heart of Floating Island, a place called Marble Gardens. The setting sun in his eyes as he and Tails landed in the Carnival. Carnival? Carnival? Carnival. The bright lights and rides. Slasher meeting them outside the gates, leaving the island and flying to the snow-capped mountain range on the mainland, exploring the ice cap and the caves. Oh, Jesus. Blah, blah, blah. It was there Sonic awoke. He sat up and this is literally just recapping Sonic like 2. It was there Sonic awoke. He sat up in bed, eyes wide. One eye wide. Breath coming in deep gasps. He looked out the window. The lone star had not moved, but Sonic could feel it was around midnight. All was not normal, however. The dream had broken the barrier in Sonic's memory, and he could recall all the way back to before Robotnik. He could also remember why he had forgotten it all. One day, he, Knuckles, and Tails were messing around with a portable teleporter. It had been acting up, so Knuckles was at the controls while Sonic stood in the beam. Welcome to Jackass. The device was set to 3/4 power, that is. You could see whether it would take you without it doing so. Sonic was calling out what he saw, and Knuckles was making adjustments. Tails was watching from a safe distance. And then the quirk came into play. The teleporter did something it wasn't supposed to do. Sonic remembered yelling hysterically, "Turn it off! Turn it off! It's the interweb!" What? Yeah! But the thing was locked and wouldn't shut off. Knuckles and Tools leaped forward to forcibly drag Sonic out. But as they grabbed his arms, the teleporter came all the way, and only his arms came out. No, and this sucks. Came all the way on and sucked the three of them into trackless universe of the interweb. Sonic and Tails managed to stay together, but Knuckles was flung away from them and lost. Time had no meaning in the interweb, so they were unaware of how long they were in it. But by the time they made it out and back to Mobius, they had both lost their long-term memories. It had all been erased by the brain-draining functions of the interweb. Robotnik had been busy, meanwhile. He had played a big role in the Great War and succeeded in capturing Mobitropolis. Okay. Which later became Robotropolis. He also perfected the robotizer. But it's the robotizer.
It should be robotizer.
I know, I've said that before, but this person wrote it as robotizer.
He's fucking autistic.
Duh!
Jay, I'm looking
He doesn't
at
listen
you.
to the show anymore.
So what?
And began his dictatorship over Mobius. Sonic and Tails started a freedom fighter band, which quickly became a sort of underground rebellion. They forgot about the interweb in the meantime. It was such a horrible experience that it went into one of those airtight compartments in their heads and was conveniently forgotten about. Another thing that changed was the fact Slasher was gone. No one knew when she had left, or had even heard of her. Convenient. Knuckles had gotten out of the interweb, but isolated himself on the floating island, and for a long time lived by himself, alone and secluded. Yeah, that's what alone means.
Yeah.
Only recently had he started working for Robotnik. The interweb had erased his memory as well, but he was still reserved and didn't completely trust anyone. Sonic remembered everything, and with a clarity that was a little freaky. As he sat there, staring out the window, his thoughts flew back to Slasher's arrival. What had she said? What had she said? Sonic, I'm back! I can't believe it, but I'm back! Back from where? She had not been in the interweb, for she still had her memory. Yes, he could see... He could see that she was constantly saying things that related to his previous adventures, but he never understood her innuendos. Ugh. He had to know. Sonic quietly slid out of his hammock and made his way outside. Yeah. It was clear it was soaked with his piss from having a nightmare.
Oh.
It was clear.
That's what it really says.
No!
Oh.
Come on! Yeah. It was slick with the piss. He slid out of the hammock. It was clear and cold. Already a thick frost covered everything. His pee-pee was cold. The stars lit the world with a soft luminescence, allowing Sonic to see quite clearly. He glided across his piss and entered Slasher's hut and peed on her. The big raptor. Yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like she's like 3 times his size or something. Yeah. The big raptor had built her hut to have the maximum amount of floor space. She didn't sleep on a bed, for she preferred the floor. Her only bedding was a pile of branches and dried grass covered with a canvas tarpaulin. Serena was asleep on a Serena was asleep on a cot in the corner. As Sonic entered, Slasher's head lifted, showing she was far from asleep. Sonic padded over to her pallet and sat down. God, this guy. Keep it down! Keep it down. Slasher murmured. Serena's asleep, but lightly, from nervousness. Sonic nodded. Is he... Well, like, I can't tell who's talking. Sonic nodded, then said quietly, Slasher, I remember everything!
Like a bad Vietnam dream.
Yeah. Whoa! One of Sonic's hands was on Slasher's shoulder, and he felt a deep tremor run through her. At last, she said softly, I've been praying that the Lord God Yeshua... Oh, you don't recognize it. That's not from Sonic. Okay.
Yeshua?
Yeah.
Nope.
Or maybe it's Yeshua. Would break whatever barrier it is that stands in your mind. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeshua, or Jesus, he is the creator and Lord of all, even Mobius. So not only is this fan fiction, it's Christian fan fiction with a raptor insert. Self-insert, I'm sure, because a raptor actually wrote this. Even Mobius. But if you remember everything, you must remember all I told you about him, capital H. Sonic thought back. Yes, Slasher had exposed him in Tales to Jesus. And Sonic had always sort of sloughed over it before. What? Slawed? Slooshed? Sloughed? S-L-O-U-G-H-E-D. I don't know what that word is. Over it before. But now. Slasher... So now the realistic raptor that Mitch has to draw for me has to have a crucifix hanging around his neck.
It's gotta look like the Pope.
Nah, maybe. Remember Raptor Jesus?
Yeah.
He is the creator and Lord... Oh. Slasher, I want to know what happened to you. We got sucked into the... He couldn't bring himself to say interweb because it was so retarded. And when we came back, you were gone. Where'd you go? When I blew my whistle, you said you couldn't believe it. You were back. Slasher closed her eyes and shook her head. To explain this, I'm afraid I must admit to one of the stupidest mistakes I've ever made. What? Believing in Jesus. She looked at him. Way back before the interweb. Sonic cringed. Yeah, I told you why I live in Mobius instead of Earth, and how I got my wings. Remember? Sonic looked down, thinking, "Oh yeah, I remember now. You said those weird aliens took you to the planet called Cockatus. Cockatus. Cockytus. What? And they gave you wings so you could work for them more efficiently, right? Brilliant, Holmes. Keep going." Sonic thought a moment more, and all the aliens tried to become gods and vanished, and you sank into 100-year hibernation. When humans from Earth showed up, one of them befriended you, and you showed him around and helped him bring back the aliens. Then the aliens let you go home. Am I right so far? Slasher nodded. Uh-huh. And I'm glad you seem to be thinking clearly, for I was not. When all three of my friends were sucked into an alternate dimension, Slasher continued, I figured I'd never be able to rescue you by entering the teleporter. So I tried to go in a back way. I remembered where the aliens had gone. I placed them a place they called Space-Time 6. I tried to go there. Sonic looked shocked. You didn't. I did. That's why it was the stupidest mistake I ever made. I used an object the creatures gave me, and I've sworn I'll never tell anyone what it is, and left Space-Time 4. I mistakenly thought I could reach the interweb through Space-Time 6. I was wrong. The instant I entered Space 6, the portal closed behind me. I knew if I advanced one step further, I would never be able to find my way back again, so I waited. I knew enough to know I must be needed outside for the portal to open again. So I despaired when I saw that you had gotten back, but had forgotten about me. Still, there was always a slim chance, so I stayed close to the portal. Nothing happened until I began praying, and then, I still can't explain it to you, you found your whistle. The moment you blew it, the portal opened and I leaped through it. I came through so fast that there was a few minutes before time caught up to me again. That's how I was able to set fire to the fuel station and attack Robotnik in the same 30 seconds. I wondered about that, Sonic nodded. He put an arm around her muscular neck. She was so big, he had to reach up to accomplish this. And said, I've needed you a lot in the past few years. Another hour passed before they finished talking. Oh, we don't get to recap this. Sonic went back to bed with a much lightened heart and a refreshed mind. They had talked over everything that had happened so long ago, and Slasher had told him he had to tell Tails about it, and revive his memory too. Too bad we can't talk to Nux, Sonic had said regretfully. I'd like to ask him, and what about to him, and blah blah blah. That's not a bad idea, she had murmured. Shortly afterwards, she had kicked him out, for it was late. Chapter 8. Tails, Sonic, and Slasher's plan. What the fuck are you doing?
I'm trying to get the fucking chaos.
But ain't that gonna take you like 9 hours to?
No,
All right.
shut up.
Okay. Early the next morning, Sonic awoke Tails. Hey, little bro! Sonic said softly. Sonic said softly. Hey, little bro! I need to ask you something. Tails sat up and yawned. What's up, Sonic? Tails, do you remember the interweb? Tannic?
Panic? Ooh.
Tails gasped at the name and writhed backwards. Don't say it, Sonic. I don't want to remember it. Tails! Sonic was firm.
I bet.
You have to! Because you have to remember what happened before it got us. It's like really important. Tails tried to think, but shuddered and looked up at Sonic. I can't remember anything past it. You have to! Sonic implored earnestly. I beg you to reconsider. Don't you remember Floating Island? Remember the earthquake in Marble Gardens that almost killed you? Floating Island, Tails murmured. Marble Gardens? That sounds familiar, but that... Sonic began to recount...
That's where I am right now.
Oh, fuck! Sonic began to recount their previous adventures in detail, while Tails listened wide-eyed. Unknown to them, everyone in Knothole gathered around the door and windows that were also listening wide-eyed. Way too much shrimp. For 30 minutes it went on. Sonic so absorbed in what he was telling... I feel like I'm going to vomit. Oh, Tails, he didn't notice he had an audience. He ended at the doorway. Oops. He ended at the doomsday battle between himself and Robotnik, and Tails suddenly remembered it all. They talked back and forth about everything. Tails said,
"The only thing bad about remembering all this is that I can't forget the interweb and what it did. It touched my pee-pee.
Man, I wish I could.
How awful to totally forget everything else, though."
It was then Sonic looked up and noticed everyone clustered around the windows and door. "How about that?" he shouted at them. "Did you guys hear all that okay?" In a lower voice, he said, "Come on, Tails! Gosh! I can't control the volume of my voice! I feel like I've said that a lot." He got up and walked around, where he was inundated with questions. "Slasher, help!" he cried in mock dismay. Slasher was standing back with her forearms folded, claws out, watching. When Sonic called, she grinned and moved forward. "You seem to be very popular at the moment," she chuckled. 2 hours passed. Oh, Lord. Sonic was at the center of attention as he told everyone about fighting Robotnik many different times. Tails told his side as well, which was nothing. He did nothing. With Slasher, yeah, he fell into spikes and died over and over again. With Slasher inputting her angle every so often. But once nobody could think of anything more questions, Sonic said, well, there was one more person who was there too. But he's on the wrong side of history." "Who?" Sally demanded. "Oh. Who?" Sonic and Tails looked at each other and said in unison, "Knuckles." Slasher stood up and announced unexpectedly, and he needs to have his memories revived as well. He could give us valuable information on the continuum. I've been thinking about it, and tonight Knuckles will join our side. Or else. Daylight Savings Part 2. Oh, fuck. We're in Part 2 now. Only 10 more parts to go. Chapter 9. Knuckles joins the Freedom Fighters. Oh, spoiler! Fuck. A silent shadow slunk into Robotropolis that night. No one noticed it. No one could. Because she's just so goddamn cool. It sank into blackness every time a robot passed, then continued its glide forward. It was Slasher. Of course. She was the darkest of shadows, and just as quiet. She kept to the back alleyways between buildings, avoiding the pools of light cast by streetlights. You suck.
I do.
It would have been easier to fly into the city, but a storm was brewing, and a thick layer of smog filled the sky. Besides, it was more fun to sneak in on foot. Slasher loved sneaking. To avoid detection, it was quite good at it. When she was younger, her raptor playmates wouldn't let her play hide-and-seek with them, for she would vanish and no one would find her. Slasher made silent way into the heart of Robotropolis, aiming for what had been the castle, but was now Robotnik's fortress. You stink. You suck worse than this fucking fanfiction. Serena had provided some info on it, mainly the lactation of the little side door where she had entered. The center of the city was a maximum security area, but if an amateur hedgehog had gotten out, then an expert velociraptor could get in. And so far, Slasher was undiscovered. At the thought of Serena, a half smile spread across Slasher's face. Oh yeah, I forgot who Serena was. Serena's is Sonic's sister.
Uh-oh.
Sonic, as a joke, had snuck up behind Serena, grabbed both arms, and doubled them up behind her. "March!" he hissed in her ear. And march she did for 3 steps. Then she dropped to the ground like dead weight, which made Sonic stoop over her. Quick as lightning, her legs whipped up and locked her knees around Sonic's neck, then flipped him up and over her in a wide arc. He hit the ground flat on his ass with a groan and just lay there, dead. Serena jumped to her feet and asked, "Are you okay? I didn't hurt you, did I?" Sonic closed his eyes and played dead until his lungs stopped. Then he sat up and rubbed his neck. "Where did you learn to do that?" was the first thing he said. "Well, I kind of made it up." Yeah, was the reply. "In my village, all the roughest kids raped me. They would ambush me, twist my wrists up between my ears, and march me away to be their prisoner. So I would knock the wind out of whoever grabbed me. Then I'd get up and wail the stuffing out of them. As an afterthought," she added, "I didn't flip you as hard as I did that echidna. the one named Knuckles. He looked like a fish out of water. That proved the newcomer had a few tricks up her sleeve. No one had picked on her since. That's why Robotnik's other 2 hedgehogs instead of just one. That's why Robotnik's after 2 hedgehogs instead of just one, Slasher thought. Well, that's tough, because he'll never get either of them. She was nearing the fortress. It was in sight now. Indeed, a little too plainly. Honk, honk. It's Minnie. The building was illuminated with searchlights for 100 feet in all directions. Slasher paused, crouched in the shadows behind a pile of cement pipes, and tried to figure out a way to reach the fortress without being spotted. SWAT bots were everywhere. Slasher was not afraid of them. Rather, she scorned them as total wimps, but knew that if she was discovered, she would be chased out and reported to Robotnik. That was one thing Slasher didn't want. She preferred to be anonymous. Oh, fuck. The sound of tramping metal feet reached Slasher's ears. Instinctively, she pressed herself into the corner, flattened out. I spit all over my fucking phone. Becoming invisible, the Raptor watched as 4 SWAT bots and 2 U-SWATs walked by, headed for their patrol station. She was in no danger from their scanners, because she was invisible. The robots never initiated extra safety measures that could scan velociraptors. Wimps, she thought. As soon as the bots were a safe distance away, Slasher crawled out of the shadows. She looked around sharply as she emerged from hiding, for sometimes badniks lurked around every corner. Well, not tonight. Everything seemed quiet. A flash of lightning lit the sky for an instant, and Slasher figured she knew why. The robots were under shelter. Robotnik was expecting a downpour. An icy breeze blew down the street, carrying more than a threat of rain. Very interesting, Slasher thought. A snowy thunderstorm. That shouldn't happen normally. Oh well, it's probably because of the continuum. Slasher began to circle the fortress, looking for the small side door Serena had described. Halfway around, she spotted. Again, she sank into the shadows, considering. There was a brightly lit patch of 50 feet, and a surveillance camera slowly panning back and forth. It seemed impossible to reach the door, so Slasher did the next best thing. She waited. Days! She was in no real hurry. She had all night. Another lightning flash and a rumble of thunder reminded her of possible danger from the elements, but she figured she could weather the storm. She turned, so she was facing into the cold dusts of wind that came whipping through the dirty streets, and angled her wings to shelter her. See, I always forget she has wings. To shelter her body from the cold. There. Let the storm come. She was ready. I feel like I read this part already. Or he just... Did I read this already? Ah, fuck it. 10 minutes later, a sound caused her head to whip around. Maybe I did read this. I think I read some of this, like I skipped ahead. Knuckles beamed down. He stood on the receiver plate until the beam was completely gone, then walked off among the glowing gems. Slasher waited until he was safe distance away and shook herself vigorously. She also reared up and beat her wings a few times to get the water out of them. Feeling much better, she stepped out of hiding and looked around the cavern. The place was called Hidden Palace. Is that where you are now?
No.
It was hidden for good reason. For if the Power Stones fell into the wrong hands, there would be no telling what could happen. Slasher had not been there in a long time. She stepped into the middle of the grouped pillars.
It says funky music.
Yeah, I lost where I was going. Oh, looking around, drinking it all in. All the emeralds seemed to be in good shape. Slasher cast a glance in the direction of the Master Emerald's pedestal. Then she looked again. The Master Emerald was missing. The little green crystals were still there, lining the hole where the big stone had been, but the gem itself was gone. The big raptor walked up to the holder and peered over the edge, just to be sure. But the emerald was gone. Slasher whirled around. The only ones that knew where it was were Knuckles and Robotnik. She was not about to ask the latter, but the former was here. He could talk to her. Slasher turned and whirled and moved in Knuckles' direction, lowered her head and snorted loudly. On the far side of the cavern, Knuckles snapped erect. Oh no. Full erect Knuckles. What was that? His mind screamed. He turned slowly, pulling his blaster out of his holster. As he did so, something was here. He felt sure it was whoever had tailed him through Robotropolis. Knuckles pulled the safety off the gun with a loud click. "All right," he called stormily. "I know you're here. Show your face." His heart leaped into his mouth as a soft voice purred in reply. "No, you come to me." It came from around the receiver dish. Carefully, quietly, Knuckles began to make his way there. "Who are you?" he called, and his voice didn't sound nearly as bold. "Oh, you know me quite well," was the answer. Knuckles paused. "I don't know your voice." What does Knuckles sound like?
I guess just use Sonic Boom's Knuckles.
I don't know what that sounds like. How about the Australian one?
Oh yeah, that works.
I can. Oi!
Cunt.
Oi, cunt! I don't know your voice. If I knew who you are, we don't recognize your voice. I can't do an Australian accent. Because you have forgotten how it sounded. Maybe it's funnier that way. Because you have forgotten how it sounded. That's why. Silence. Then, hurry up. I'm getting tired of waiting. Knuckles was losing his nerve, and he knew it. "Oi, cunt! Are you going to kill me?" He might as well ask. "No," the voice replied airily. I won't hurt you unless you hurt me first. I don't normally kill old friends in cold blood, you see. "Oi, cunt! Old friends! Oi, cunt! Who are you anyway, oi, cunt? Come and see." Cunt. No, that's Slasher. She doesn't say cunt. "Come and see, cunt." The red echidna, as opposed to the blue or the yellow one, looked down at his hands and saw they were shaking. He doesn't have hands. Angry at himself for being a wimp, he stole forward to the first. Angry at himself for being a cunt, he stole forward to the first pillar. He leaned back against it and, holding the blaster at ready, peered around it. Oh, a large shadowy form was standing in the center of the pillars, waiting for him. In one smooth motion, Knuckles stepped away from the pillar and aimed the gun at the creature's heart. But she doesn't have one. But before he could fire, it said, "Are you sure you want to do that, Knuckles?" He hesitated, uncertain. "Well, oi! State your identity and business, cunt!" he snapped. The creature laughed. "Ha ha ha! Is that your impersonation of a SWAT bot or Robotnik?" As it spoke, it glided forward, and in one liquid motion took the blaster from his hands. Robbed of his weapon, the next thing that kicked in was instinct. Knuckles raised his knuckles and knuckled her in the face. Slasher dodged backward, still chuckling. She caught one of Knuckles' knuckles, and then the other knuckle, and quicker than you could say knuckle, he was on the ground. He leaped to his knuckle and mad. He had been knuckled for too long, and now he was going to knuckle it out on someone. His reluctant opponent backed away. "I don't want to knuckle you." "Oh, wait. I don't want to fight you, KTE," she said to him. "Why? Scared? Oi?" He snarled at her. "No! I'd have to end up hurting you." "Oh. Oi, cunt!" he sneered. "You're one of those purists. One of those violence never solved anything type cunts. Well, I'm going to teach you differently." Knuckles knuckled at her, but was met with a blow that sent him reeling backwards. Slasher swung her whip-like tail back, ready for another blow, but she looked sad. "I didn't want to do this to you, but here we go." She dealt him a deadly blow. Stunning blow with her tail, then let him attack her. His hands and knuckle spikes were powerful weapons, and he hurled them with knuckle accuracy. Slasher blocked his knuckles as best as Knuckles could, but one knuckle home, knuckle. The pain knuckled her. Oh, ew. The pain aroused her ever-present temper, and she attacked Knuckles with moves only a Velociraptor could know. Her first whirlwind rush should have, in my mind, I see like the Velociraptor from that fucking dinosaur fighting game, Primal Rage. That's like what's in my head, fighting like an 8-bit Knuckles. The pain. Oh wait. Charge him again, blah, blah, blah. No one, not even one as tough as Knuckles, could withstand a beating like that for any length of time. He collapsed to the ground, sick, winded, and Knuckles. Slasher crouched over him, spreading her wings a little to hide him. "By rights," she panted, "your life is forfeit to me." She talks like a fucking, samurai, too. It kills me. Or in other words, you started it, and I won. I could kill you right here. "Then do it! Oi!" Knuckles wheezed. He was lying on his back, a vulnerable position when a Velociraptor has you. Ugh. He turned his head and closed his eyes, waiting for the blow to fall, but it didn't. Instead, Slasher fucked him. I'm sorry I did this to you, she said quietly. I should have introduced myself to you first. I'm Slasher, remember? Painfully, Knuckles sat up. Slasher? I remember hearing that name a long time ago. He wiped a thin stream of blood from his lip and broke off. And broke? I don't know. That's what it says. Yeah, Slasher.
I didn't know blood broke off.
No, I think I think that's. They stopped talking because there's ellipses after a go. Yeah, Slasher replied, but before the interweb. Interweb.
She uses interweb.
He.
Oh, it's a he.
I assume.
You can't assume gender, remember?
Well, no, remember it's a velociraptor. I don't know what genders velociraptors had. No one does. Knuckles sat bolt upright and stared at her. One eye was already turning a nice shade of purple. A real shiner. But the other eye opened wide in terror. Don't even say its name, he gasped. It was horrible. I don't want to remember it. I can't remember it. Not here. Slasher nodded understandingly. I know. Sonic told me about it. A strange light came into Knuckles' good eye. Because now he was blind in one eye. No. What Sonic and Tails went through was nothing compared to what happened to me. They only got fucked. They were at least together. I was all alone. It was hell, Slasher. That has to be what hell is like. Oh, wouldn't it be great if this was a fucking... What's that movie? An Event Horizon crossover with fucking Sonic. He shivered. How'd you get out? The raptor asked him.
What?
Someone found us. It's Mitch.
Oh.
Can you remember anything before it? Oh, I guess I went through the last portal. Oh, wait.
Oh, man.
It had warped my... Oh, wait, okay. How'd you get out? The raptor asked him. I guess I went through the last portal. I don't remember much about the last part. It had warped my mind so badly that I just hid on my island until the nightmare stopped and I could look people in the eyes again. But why am I telling you all this? You're a complete stranger to me. Not really, Slasher sighed. Can you remember anything before it? Before it? Knuckles shook his head. No. Well, sometimes something slips through. A thought, a feeling, a memory. But I can't recall all of it. Let me jog your memory then, Slasher said. Tonight I was... following you through Robotropolis, and you knew it. It brought back the memory of another time, something that, like, blah. Now, watch me, she commanded. Slasher started to dance. Slasher slipped away into the shadows between the pillars and began to prowl back and forth, letting her green eyes catch the light and purring with each breath. Ooh, sexy. Knuckles stared at her, and his mouth dropped open. I've seen that before, he breathed, and the memory was not pleasant. Now, Slasher said as she walked toward him, tell me where this has happened before. She slipped behind Knuckles and drew her long claws down his back. Where'd I go? He started violently and leaped to his feet. Yew! He hissed through clenched teeth. I remember that night in the carnival. It was the only other thing that's ever happened to me that came close to matching the terror of the interweb. Well then, Slasher said calmly, you seem to remember that quite clearly. Do you remember why I did it? Knuckles thought a few seconds, then shook his head. Because you were going to rough up Sonic and Tails, so they would lose the fight against Robotnik, and I wasn't about to let you do that. Knuckles allowed himself a rueful grin. Yeah, I do remember something about that. Then he frowned. Tell me more. I don't enjoy having a blank spot in my memory. So Slasher spent over an hour telling him about everything. When she's finished, Knuckles was no longer afraid of her. He was also no longer on Robotnik's side. Heck, I can't figure out why I'm working for that jerk again. How'd I get myself mixed up with him? Well, I'll tell you. It's because you're retarded. You have a lot of ability, he discovered when he hired you the first time, and he figured since you didn't remember that he had... They both stood up. Now, said Slasher, I have something a little more serious to tell you. And she informed him of what the Continuum was, doing to Mobius's Arbit. Knuckles knew about the Continuum, but had no idea that it was causing any harm. And so, Slasher said soberly, we need to disable it, and ASAP. Do you remember, Blue? Do you know how it's maintained? A half smile instead of a rueful smile spread across Knuckles' face. That's why we call Hidden Palace Maintenance C. C stands for Continuum. Ho ho ho! Ho ho! Its base is here. He beckoned the Slasher and led her to the far corner of the room. There, clasped in a big machine, was the Master Emerald. Right now. Right here. Right now. Power has been diverted from it to power Robotropolis. He pointed to a massive cable which ran into the wall. That's why it isn't glowing too brightly. This contraption harnesses its power and directs it. Does it control the continuum? Slasher asked interestedly. Knuckles shook his head. Nope! The Master only provides the raw power. There are 7 points around Mobius that maintain the continuum. I know. I helped Doc get his hands on each and every time stone. What? What? You think you can manufacture a break in the universe to continue with Blue? Are you kidding? So we ransacked Little Planet and got all 7 of them. We outfitted each base with a stone, powered them up, and presto changeo. Here we are. Slasher sighed heavily. I didn't think it would be easy. Well, do you know where each station is? Station. Knuckles shrugged. Yeah, but I couldn't lead you. I'm terrible at directions. Oh, Knuckles. You fuck. You'd do better if you had a map. Is there a map? No. Yes, in Doc's desk. Can you get it? Nope. Why not? Are you crazy? He'd fillet me alive. Well, could someone else say Sonic get in? Maybe. His office is wait a minute. You already know where it is? Yeah, where? The girl hedgehog. She crashed the computer system. When the SWATs caught her about 3 weeks later, someone rescued her. We assumed it was the Freedom Fighters. Well, you assumed correctly. Her name is Serena, and she has indeed joined us. She could tell you where his office is. Nux glanced at his watch and gasped. Oh, great! I was supposed to be back right away. It's already midnight. Oh, man, Doc's gonna kill me. And the prom is tomorrow. If he ran back to the receiver dish, Slasher followed. You died?
Yes.
You're lame.
It's hard to
Act
do this
3.
with you fucking talking.
Well, fucking figure it out.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Doc's gonna kill me. As he began powering up the teleporter, Slasher asked him, Are you a very good liar? Knuckles just shrugged. Sometimes, when I have to be. Why? Look at me. Knuckles glanced up at Slasher, then back down at what he was doing. Yep, it'd work. What? You're already beat up pretty bad. You can make up some story about a roving band of freedom fighters intercepting you on your way back and shoving you around. We could even splatter you and your speeder with mud to give the story credibility. Knuckles put his hands on his hips and looked up at the big velociraptor. I like that. I like that. That sounds pretty good. Then he sniggered. It's almost true, I know. Except I was intercepted here. I encountered a freedom fighter who roughed me up big time, then turned around and allied me to her side. Ha! But wait a minute. What about my blaster? Slasher picked it up from where it had been flung during their fight. Say they hit you so fast you didn't have time to use it. Okay, come on. Let's head back. Knuckles donned his helmet and cape and reslung the blaster across his chest. As he turned on the teleporter, Slasher asked him, Does this work the same as the old ones? Yep, was the reply. I haven't upgraded them in a long time, and I'd like to keep them easy to use. Oh, good. I have a feeling that I'll be coming back to Hidden Palace again. Knuckles shot her an agonized look, and she quickly added, Alone. I wouldn't bring the others here, and you know it. They teleported back outside. The storm had abated somewhat, and the ground was streaming ice water. It was very dark. Slasher helped Knuckles mount the hover scooter. It was none the worse for having been left out in the rain, although it was dripping wet. And so was Slasher. The big raptor guided him out of the tossing trees, and wind was still blowing, and onto the plains. There, they found a muddy spot and got Nux fairly dirty. There, he said as he climbed upon the bike again. How do I look? Like somebody just beat the fuck out of you. was the reply, and you'll really feel it tomorrow morning. Thanks, Knuckles called, and as he jammed the craft into gear and took off, I think, he yelled over his shoulder. Oh, I think! Slasher watched him leave. A wide, oh. Grin on her face. She turned and that's actually what it says. She turned and headed into the woods. A minute later, the teleporter fired up and transported its operator back to Hidden Palace. She didn't return until morning. Chapter 10: Scouts. Tails flattened himself against the ground, pressing his small body into a hollow in the hearth under the spreading bushes. Ew. He pressed himself into Sally Acorn's spreading bush. He sat there motionless, watching and listening. It was early morning. The sky still bore tatters and shreds of last night's storm. The woods were drenched and dripping, and it was only 20 degrees. Tails was cold, but it wouldn't make him give away his position. He and Sonic were acting as scouts. 10 feet to his right was the road that led through the great forest, across the plains, and into Rububububububub. Sonic was somewhere in the far side of the road, but like Tails, was hidden and invisible. But not for long. A sudden crash marked Sonic's location. Tails saw him picking himself up as he muttered, "Who put that branch there? Dumb place for it, middle of the forest." He backed into hiding once more, then spoke into the communicator strapped to his wrist. "You there, Tails?"
Yep, I'm here, Grace.
"Oh, sure, rub it in, will ya? Are you in position?"
Uh-huh. I have a clear view of the road and part of the plains. If I were up a little higher, I could see Robotropolis.
"Sounds cool! Start scanning. I've got my infrared goggles. I'll be the lookout." Slasher hadn't come home last night. It was still out there somewhere. Sonic and Tails had been in... blah. Boo, boo, boo. Tails pointed the scanner out towards the plains and clicked it on. The screen was clear. Nothing of interest. Slowly, the young fox swung in, boo, planning over the blah. Nothing. Tails twisted a knob to increase the range. Again, he swept it from side to side. A blip appeared on the screen.
Sonic, I've got something,
Tails hissed.
"What?" "I don't know. It's almost out of range, but it looks like it's coming this way."
"Where at?"
"A little to the south in Robotropolis."
Sonic looked that way with his goggles. They did nothing. He could see something, but couldn't make it out. Tails, is it a life form or a bot? Tails adjusted a dial.
"Life form. Think it's Slasher?"
"Could be. I'm gonna try the whistle. Stand by." Sonic, oh, I wish I had my slide whistle. Sonic always wore the whistle around his neck now. Somehow, he felt closer to Slasher when he wore it. For all he had to do was blow it, and she'd come running. Now, he gasped, he grasped it, lifted it to his lips, and blew one piercing blast into it. Blast on it. Tails was watching the figure with the area scan, and saw it began to move rapidly in their direction.
Oh my god, what are you doing?
Chili dog! I lost my place again. Tails was watching the figure with the area scan and saw, rapidly in their direction. "Well, Sonic, it's either Slasher or a very fast Velociraptor."
Oh, no.
"Good!" Sonic replied, relief evident in his voice. He put on the goggles and looked forward toward Slasher. She had broken into a swift, flowing run and was gaining speed. The jubilant smile on her face was apparent as she drew nearer. "Wait until she gets a little closer," Sonic said into the corn. But he and it's calm. It looks like corn. But he and Tails stepped out of the woods and onto the road. The big raptor slowed to a limping walk as she reached them. "Hiya, guys. Missed me?" Slasher asked as she gave them both high fives in greeting. "Miss you?" Sonic demanded. "What kind of a sissy do you think I am? What kind of a faggot misses somebody?" Yes, Tails interrupted him. "He was so worried about that, he got me out of my warm bed as me." Slasher flashed her grin at Sonic. "Come on, you don't have to worry about me. How's that song go? There is no circumstance that you can't handle when you use your mind?" The fuck song is that? Yeah, Sonic replied. But that song is about me, not you.
Faggot.
You faggot? Where were you anyway? Befriending Nux, like I said I would. All night? Oh, yeah. Well, no, just until midnight. What were you doing the rest of the time? Ah, that is the question of the hour. Well, I'll tell you when we get back to Knothole. Chapter 11. Sonic's special abilities enabled. Full retard mode. An hour later, I'll meet you in the retard chamber. An hour later, found the freedom fighters grouped into the large community hut. Fucking hippies. A fire was roaring in the fireplace, and Slasher was stretched out on the hearth, warming her frozen ass and preening one of her wings. Between intervals, when her attention was fixed on her feathers, she told them about all she had done the night before. The whole band was amazed at her for befriending Knuckles, for it was commonly known he trusted no one. Yes. Yep, she said. We can stop the scouting missions. I took care of all of them. And so, she finished nonchalantly, there are 2 things I have for Sonic. What? He asked eagerly. The first is a mission. You and Serena need to sneak into Robotnik's fortress and steal a map. This map shows the locations of the places a time stone is being used to maintain the continuum. And the second? Slasher's eyes sparkled with a suppressed smile. A new toy. The biggest vibrator you've ever did see. Sonic jumped to his feet. Straight up? What? Slasher reached up to her throat, and her hands made a motion like they were grasping something, but nobody could see it. Then she looked down and fooled with something. Ugh. There was a click, and all at once a long strip of leather appeared in her hands. Everyone gasped. Where'd that come from? Somebody demanded. Slasher handed it to Sonic. He took it and looked at it. It was a beautiful leather belt, intricately engraved, set with 7 glowing crystals. Except it didn't feel exactly like leather. As he turned it over and over in his hands, Slasher seemed to read his thoughts. It's not leather. It's not leather. It's human skin! It's a unique type of plastic, I think. It's from Cocytus. So I don't really know what it's made of. The stones had fallen out a long time ago, so I put those in.
This person is pissing me off.
What person?
Whoever wrote this obviously doesn't know shit about Sonic, because there's no humans in Sonic.
It's fan fiction, you dumb fuck. It can be
No.
whatever you want.
No, they're called Overlanders.
Who's the real nerd? Jesus Christ! It's called Overlanders. Did she mention humans? Did I read a part about humans?
Yeah, you just said human skin, and I'm like, there's no
I made
such
that up,
thing.
you fucking moron.
Well, I can't read what you're reading while I'm playing a game.
I've been making half of this up. Not half of it, but the human
Yeah.
skin part was a joke.
Was it?
Yes! Look! Pause it. It's not leather. It's a unique type of plastic. I added
what
it's
the-
human skin. Gee, this is like family friendly, this story.
it?
Yes!
Oh.
When I said beat the fuck out of you, he wrote beat the heck out of you.
Ooh.
Yeah. HE-double-CK sticks. This is from Cocytus, Sonic asked. Way past cool! And you're giving it to me? Yep. But it has a bit more value to it than that. Look at the stones. Sonic did, and discovered touching them made his fingers tingle, made his pee-pee tingle, like touching a live wire. What are they? Don't tell me! Don't tell me! The Chaos Emeralds? Right? All eyes flew to Slasher. To have all the Chaos Emeralds was an unheard of feat. Slasher slowly shook her head, and everyone sighed in disappointment. No, not the Chaos. Those are Super Emeralds. The casual way she spoke made everyone say, "Oh, just the Super Emeralds." The Super Emeralds! Sonic nearly dropped the belt. See, that's all. That's
Nearly
actually all
dropped the
there.
load.
Yeah, Sonic nearly crapped his pants that he wasn't wearing. These are there. You mean these? You mean I'm holding? Are Super Emeralds real? Are they a real thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Slasher nodded. You know what they are, right? Sonic gaped at her. Ew! Oh, fuck.
Gapped.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, how in the world did you make this? Supers are great big.
Ooh.
Jesus. It was easy. You had all supers when you were sucked into the interweb. As you entered, the emeralds gravitated back to their original home. I took the miniatures you were carrying and inserted them into the belt. I figured they'd be easier to carry that way. Explains nothing. Sonic stared down at the belt again, this time with new respect. What are super emeralds? What are super emeralds? Serena spoke up. She had been lost when they started discussing the power stones. Still looking at the belt in his hand, Sonic murmured, "Super are far way more powerful than Chaos. They take power directly from the Master Emerald. And one time they drained the Chaos Emeralds of their power too. There's no end to the stuff I can do with them." He looked up at Slasher. "I've only used them twice." "Do you think it'll work again?" Slasher shrugged. "Oh, dunno. Should. Do it outside, though. And about 10 feet away from anybody." What? That made me laugh. "What are you two talking about?" Sally demanded. "Oh. You started talking in code or something." Sonic looked at her, his eyes glowing with intense excitement. "I can use them to become hypersonic," he said in almost a whisper. He doesn't know how to whisper. 5 minutes later, they were all outside. Sonic stood a short distance away from everyone. Slasher showed him how the belt clasp worked, because he's retarded, and he never wears clothes except for shoes and gloves. Sonic strapped the belt around his waist, and as soon as he fastened it, it vanished. Oh, fuck. Everyone gasped in surprise. Everyone gaped. But Slasher calmed them by saying, "When you wear the belt, it becomes invisible to all but the wearer. Calm down. You can still see it, right, Sonic?" Ooh. He nodded. "Okay, everybody, stand back. I'm going to see if I remember how to do this." Sonic crouched down and shit, crossing his arms in front of him. Then he leaped into the air, at the same time snapping his arms across the emeralds and behind his back. What? Alright. A bright light shone from the belt for an instant, and Sonic's cobalt blue turned a variety of flashing colors. His spikes stuck nearly straight up, as if charged with electricity, and balls of energy like fireworks spiraled up and around him before burning out. This was Hypersonic. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. Sonic, I thought it was Supersonic.
Well, it's supersonic and then it's hypersonic. Yeah.
Fucking nerds. Sonic looked down at himself, then up at his staring friends. "Cool!" he yelped. Then took a running leap and bounded all the way across Knothole and back in 2 seconds. He moved at nearly the speed of light. It was completely invincible. "Yippee!" he shouted. He leaped into the air, came out of his spin, and flew around 10 feet above the ground. He landed lightly before the wide-eyed freedom fighters. This is so much fun!" he said to them. "I feel like I weigh 5 pounds, and I can run fast. I feel like I lost 5 pounds. When I shit! Way past cool!" He took off in another series of aerial stunts. "Show off!" "Oh, show off!" Tails yelled. Sonic landed before him. "What's the matter, little bro? Gay?" Tails shook his head. "Oh, come on," Sonic said, swiping one hand across his face, across the belt, to dehyperize himself. He took it off and held it out to Tails. The young fox shook his head. "No, I can't, Sonic. It wouldn't be right to use it without the birds." Sonic sobered. What? Sonic sobered. Tails was right. With the flicky birds dead, there wouldn't be any point to it. What the hell? All right. Maybe I skipped that part. Or maybe there's previous material that we didn't read.
Well, I think when Tails goes super or something, he has flicky birds.
And they're all dead, apparently. Fuck. This shit got dark.
Yeah. What the hell?
Sonic restrapped the belt around his waist. He figured he would make it a permanent part of his person. "I'll never wash myself again." Like Slasher's whistle, and indeed, it proved him useful in the adventure that followed. Chapter 12. Oh my god. This isn't even halfway down my phone. Like, can you believe this shit? And I already read a lot of this already. Chapter 12. The maps. The maps. Come on, Sonic, this way. Sonic ducked back into the alley and looked uncertainly at Serena. You sure, Rena? This ain't the safest way to get to the fortress. This is how I got away from it, the girl hedgehog replied. I think, she added under her breath. Sonic heard her, but made no comment. Well then, it's Let's Speed, kid, he said. It had been 2 days since Sonic had received the belt, and since Knuckles had joined their side. Sally had used the handheld computer known as Nicole to break into the newly online computer system and contact their new ally. He had offered to help Sonic and Serena get across to the map by doing a few small things, such as a baby. That's many. Such as conveniently having the surveillance camera by the door upgraded, taking it offline for several hours. The only catch was that they had to be in and out before their time was up. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning, but rather dark. For above the thick blanket of pollution and smoke was a layer of clouds. It was bitterly cold, and the occasional snowflake sifted down, promising the blizzard to come. Slasher had said she had a lot of neat stuff to show them to do with the snow, so they were looking forward to this storm, like eating yellow snow. Again, I made that part up. Yeah, now you know. Instead of dreading it, the two hedgehogs were planning to be back before the storm started. Snowstorms usually weren't a problem in their area, but the weather had been changing lately, and they didn't know what to expect. Sonic and Serena slunk through the filthy streets and alleyways, covered in shit, making their fugitive way to Robotnik's fortress. Serena was leading the way, with Sonic following a bit hesitantly. He had been there more than she had, and had a pretty good idea of the city's layout. The road they were following, Sonic knew, led straight to the forest. It was also flanked by 2 Switbit guard stations. The area could be swarming with robots at a moment's notice. They were walking right into it. He's so, like, wimpy in this story. It's weird. Sonic said nothing, however, until they were 1 street away from the guard stations and Serena hadn't stopped. Then he grabbed her by the arm and growled, "Stop!"
What the? Oh, that was fucked.
What happened? Did you die?
I opened up the chamber and Robotnik hit me. Like, look.
Oh!
He took all my fucking rings, a dick.
That's hilarious.
Oh my.
And then all the animals turned into letters for some fucking
that's
reason.
Fucking hilarious. Fuck this game.
Yeah. How many more levels are there?
2 or 3.
Oh god. Serena irritably tried to break his hold. Sonic, we're almost there. Lego my ego. No, he whirled her around and pressed her back against a building. What are you, nuts? What are you, gay? He hissed in her face. Oh. What are you, gay? Yeah. You're walking into a security block, Serena opened her mouth to reply, but Sonic shut her up with his dick. Ooh. Shush. Now, look around the corner and tell me what you see. She did so. I don't know. I see the street and a couple of newer buildings on either side, but I don't see any... Sonic cut her off. Those newer buildings are SWAT bot guard stations, you dumb fuck. Do you know what could happen if an unauthorized person walked between them? Serena shook her head. You become Swiss cheese, that's what. They use you for target practice, and then take whatever's left of you and fuck it. Get me? Serena nodded. Maybe you should lead the way, she said, and get killed. 5 minutes later... found them 3 blocks away and running. Sonic wasn't one for just moseying along. He liked to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time, and they were doing just that. Serena could run surprisingly fast. She was holding her own with him and wasn't getting tired. Sonic didn't really have time to marvel at this, for he was concentrating on navigating the dark streets. He followed such a twisting, turning path that Serena was completely lost in a matter of minutes. Once Sonic stopped and noticed the bewildered look on his companion's face, asked her which way was north. She pointed randomly to their right. Nope! That's southwest. Sonic chuckled. Oh. He did the thing. How do you know that? She asked him. Carry a compass in my head, he replied, then took off again. He's everything you want. He's everything you need. He's a super fast blue hedgehog with huge and sexy feet. He collected all the rings in a straight line, but Robotnik's always angry and you don't know why.
Oh, thank God.
30 seconds later, blah, Sonic and Boo. Been here the whole time. Oh, wait. And before them was Robotnik's fortress. Serena stared up at it, then at Sonic. Where'd it come from? Been there the whole time. We just came a back way, which is also the safest. Hey, check out the camera. They were on the side of the fortress where the little side door was. The security camera mounted next to it was offline, as was shown by its flashing red light. Huh, that's a good idea. Perfect, Sonic murmured. Knuckles is supposed to meet us here, so we better wait for him. Let's go. They trotted over to another door, but this one was barred and locked, probably an emergency exit. The two hedgehogs leaned into it, pressing themselves into it for cover. Everything was quiet for a few minutes. Serena whispered, maybe he forgot or something. No, I don't think so, Sonic yelled at the top of his voice. He turned off the camera, didn't he? He turned off the camera, didn't he? They were quite a few minutes more. There, while they had been moving, they hadn't felt the cold much, but now it was apparent. It was the raw, bitter kind of cold that sinks in and makes it hard to get warm again. Well, at least the wind's not blowing, Serena thought. A single snowflake fluttered down. It reminded her things could be worse. Her thoughts were jerked back to the present as the door they were watching opened a little, then a little more. Knuckles leaned out, looked around, and called in a half whisper, Oi, cunts! You guys over here? You cunts over here? Oi, Bob! Hey, Bob! Yo! Yeah! Sonic answered as he stepped out of hiding and beckoned to Serena. Well, hurry up! I only have a few minutes. The two hedgehogs dashed through the door and into the warm interior of the building. Knuckles' eyes narrowed a bit when he saw Serena, but he said nothing to her. I'm shy. They found themselves in a very large entry hall. Sonic the Hedgehog stared around bewildered, but Knux hissed. Always hissing.
We do that all the time.
Yeah, I know, but you can't hiss a word. The hall's only empty a few minutes at a time. Hurry, follow me. He led the two hedgehogs to an unimportant-looking door off to their right, opened it, and they all moved in. Knuckles shut the door quietly, then leaned against it with a sigh of relief. Man, I just knew somebody'd see us, he said. Robotnik's nephew, Snively. Snively. I meant to... Sorry. But is that his nephew?
Yeah.
No shit?
Yeah, shit.
That's weird. Robotnik's nephew, Snivulu, is always looking for a way to get me in trouble. That little fucking Jew. He doesn't like me much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes. Because once he crossed me and I punched him out. Oh, fuck, you punched out Snively, that son of a bitch.
Yeah. Oh.
But he becomes a new Robotnik at the end of the show. Sonic had been looking Knuckles over from head to toe and liked what he saw. He still looked kind of beat up. Slasher had inflicted no superficial wounds, but he still bore many sizable bruises. His black eye had turned a greenish color. Oh. But Knux could... and his eye fell out. But Knux could see out of it. He noticed Sonic staring at him. What? I don't look that bad, do I? Sonic looked away, drew a shuddering breath, and said, No, you look fine. Knuckles detected a tone in Sonic's voice that said otherwise. He grinned at him. Well, Sonic, let me give you a bit of advice. Never tangle with a Velociraptor, and you'll stay unhurt and healthy. His gaze shifted to Serena. Or a girl, for that matter. She beat him up before. All Knuckles does is get the shit kicked out of him. I guess that's pretty true. Knuckles glanced at his watch. Well, we better head upstairs. I was transferring some files, and they should be done by now. Sonic walked to the foot of the stairs and looked up. We have to climb all these? Oh, man. He asked. Nope, was the reply. Doc went up them twice, then had the elevator put in. Because he's a fat fuck. It's over here. Come on. The three of them stepped through the sliding doors and into the elevator. Knuckles pressed the button, and the elevator started up. Hey, Sonic, remember the rotating transport elevators back at Launch Base? Sonic nodded. Do I ever? Those were the bomb. Why? Because that's what this'n used to be. This'n. Straight up? Cool! How come it ain't spinning, though? I was working on it one day, and Robotnik didn't know and used it. It went so fast it almost killed him. Okay, that's pretty funny. When he found out why, he almost killed me. So he modified the elevator so it wouldn't spin anymore. Too bad, huh? Sonic shrugged. I thought they were a blast, but they made Tails sick. He looked at Serena, but you wouldn't be able to handle it either. Serena held up both hands and shook her head. I have no idea what you two are talking about, so I really can't say anything. She looked at Knuckles. I want to apologize for flipping you a couple of weeks ago. I didn't mean to do it so hard, but I was scared. Knuckles put a hand on her shoulder and gazed sternly into her eyes. The only thing I'll say is this. He paused. Serena just knew that he was going to yell at her, but then his scowl gave way to a smile. You gotta show me how to do that sometime. In other words, he forgave her. No hard feelings, but hard echidna penises instead. The elevator, which had been moving smoothly upward with a soft hum, slowed down and stopped. I wait for Robotnik to show up again. The doors opened, and the trio pooped out. They were at the top of the stairs. On the landing, directly opposite them was the door to Robotnik's bedroom. Ho! Serena hung back as Sonic and Knuckles walked in. She was thinking about what had happened last time she went through that door. Sonic didn't notice as he was staring around the richly furnished room in wonder. Knux had seen it all before and looked back at Serena. Seeing the hesitant look on her face, he beckoned to her. Nervously, she made her way inside. Knuckles shut the door. Then said, "What's the matter? Scared?" Serena shook her head no, then said, "Yes." Sonic glanced at her and chuckled. "So, Knuckles, where is the infamous computer?" "In here, come on." The red echidna led the two hedgehogs to the back of the room and showed them into the computer room. "So this is the central computer," Sonic said incredulously. "Pretty big." "Well, this is some of it," Knuckles replied. "We're still trying to get online again." She did a good job. He jerked his thumb in Serena's direction, but fortunately, I had just backed up the entire system. I'm in the middle of feeding those files back into the hard drive. He tapped a smaller computer, which was plugged into the big one. It was making a zip zap zoopity bop bop. Once this gets done, I have to go in and unzip all those files. Lots of work. Want to hear some good news, though? Sonic and Serena both nodded. The operational files for the robotizer were all lost. Without those files, the robotizer can't run. Heh. Don't let Doc hear it, though. He's plenty ticked about this anyway. He side-eyed Serena. She had a humorous but rebellious look on her face. "You'd do it again, wouldn't you?" he said to her. "In a heartbeat," she replied. Knuckles slid out of his pants, a few boxes and other things aside to reveal the desk. It was buried and covered over with the computer equipment. "Hey! I didn't know that desk was there," Serena said in surprise. Knuckles glanced at her and muttered, "Good thing, or you'd have vandalized it too." He opened one of the drawers, rooted through it, and pulled out 2 maps. He handed one to Serena and the other to Sonic. "Copies," he explained. "If something happens to one, you have the other one to fall back on. I had them both, laminated for you. That makes them waterproof, windproof, bulletproof, and fire resistant. I thought it would be a good idea, considering the places you guys have to go. Make any sense out of them?" Sonic turned his this way and that before answering, "Yeah, this is a complete map of Mobius, right?" "You? I've never seen one this good before. It's like a photograph. Where'd you get it?" Knuckles shook his head. "I haven't been able to figure out how Doc made them. I'd be willing to bet, though, that he's got satellites out there. It's the only way to explain the high resolution." Sonic looked at Serena. She was studying her map intently. What are these little scribbled stars?" she asked, indicating several. Knuckles smiled. "The object of the game." Huh?
Time to play the game.
It's time to play the game. Huh? Knuckles took the map from her and slapped her. Sonic and Serena looked over her shoulders as he said, "The stars mark each time stone generator. There's 7 of them. Count them." Silently, they did so. "Hey!" Sonic said suddenly. "One of them is right here in Robotropolis. Look, a star right on top of us." The hedgehogs looked at Knuckles. "Where's it at?" they asked in unison. In reply, Knuckles dug into his pocket, pulled out a gleaming object, and tossed it from hand to hand. Sonic recognized it as a time stone, a gold one. Knuckles tossed it to him. Sonic caught it and studied it. It was about 5 inches long and 3 inches wide. Hey. It wasn't really gold, but a deep yellow crystal. There was a glowing yellow spark in the center. The gem was cool and heavy in his hands and seemed to vibrate over ever so slightly. Good lord. It had a power, yes, but a different sort of power than the Chaos and Super Emeralds. Where was it? Nux pointed to the ceiling. The generator is mounted on the roof, right over our heads. Man, I don't want to read this anymore. The generator is mounted, blah, blah. I figured it'd be a good place to start, so this morning I climbed up on the roof and took the stone out. When I did, I found the if you take the stones out of the generators, one by one, they all self-destruct. Failsafe, you know. Sonic nodded. Just like before, when Death Egg blew, it signaled the other bases to blow up too. Robotnik must like doing that. He handed the time stone to Serena, who looked at it carefully before handing it back to Knuckles. What are we going to do with him? She asked. Take him back to Little Planet. What else? Nux replied. Oh, and one more thing. Before you disconnect the last stone, contact me and make sure I'm not in this tower. Those things' explosions equal 10 sticks of dynamite. Sonic grinned. It'll wipe out the computer again, won't it? Yep. I'll be running for Knothole when that happens. There's a human case of explosives that I want to avoid. Oh, he said human this time.
Well, he's wrong.
Well, no, but the Velociraptor's from Earth, and humans are from Earth, so they must know about humans. Knuckles beckoned them and led them back into the bedroom. He got down on his knees beside the bed. Whoa! And shoved a few boxes around, looking for something. What are you looking for, son? Yeah. Shoved a few boxes up his own ass.
Yeah.
Sonic asked him. Almost got it. Almost got it. Ah, there! It's up my ass! Nux pulled out a medium-sized box from his ass. He slid it into the middle of the floor and opened it. In it were 6 pairs of shortwave radios. He handed one to Serena and another to Sonic. To Sonic. These are the handiest things, Knuckles said. I use them all the time. They have a range of about 100 miles max, but better than most we have. If you want, I'll give you the whole box. Make sure everybody in the hooba boo boo. Sounds cool, Sonic said. Give me 3 pairs. Knuckles handed them to him. Sonic hooked them into his emerald belt, forgetting Knuckles didn't know about it. Nux stared at him. How are you doing that? They're not attached to anything. Oh, man. Sonic looked down, then sniggered. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Slasher got her claws on the downsized versions of the Super Emeralds and put them in the belt. The belt's invisible as long as I wear it. See? He unclasped the belt, then refastened it. Neato! Knuckles exclaimed. Do they work? Yep. Real well, too. I'm so thirsty. Yeah. Suddenly, Knuckles' watch started beeping loudly. He snapped it off and hissed. Great! You have less than 5 minutes to get out of here. I can't escort you. Doc's due to come up any time. Take the stairs. They're safer. He shoved the box back under the bed and started to re-enter the computer room. He paused with his hand on the door. Thanks, KTE. Oh, Knuckles the Echidna. Fucking Sonic said to him. Right. Now get going, Knuckles snapped. The 2 hedgehogs headed out and started down the stairs. What does KTE stand for? Serena asked. Oh my god. Sonic. Knuckles the Echidna, stupid! Sonic explained. I thought it was pretty obvious. Well, I didn't know it. I read it before. I didn't get it.
I don't remember this level being this difficult.
Oh, you died.
Like 4 times.
Well, get good.
I'm trying.
It's because you're under pressure. You have an audience of...
No, it's because you're reading a really stupid fanfic.
Oh, fucking tune me out.
It's really hard.
They lunged through the little door, turned left, and jumped through the outside door. A shock of cold air met them, along with a flurry of snow. They were already 2 inches on the ground. The hedgehogs left their fortress at a run and ducked into the dismal streets. They got about 5 blocks away from the fortress before they stopped. That was kind of close, Sonic exclaimed. Yeah, Serena agreed. Wow, look at the city. If you didn't know, it's skiboo-skiboo-boo. Nope! Brr, it's cold. Let's go back to Knothole. Sounds cool to me. Get it? Sonic replied. Let's take it easy. Let's take it nice and sleazy. I can't see very far in this, and I don't want to run into any squidwits. Come on, Rena. Chapter 13. Pac Bell. Pac Bell? They settled into a fast walk. They power walked. Sonic stayed a few feet ahead, straining his eyes to see through the curtain of swirling snow. It was getting deeper by the minute, and their tracks were soon covered. Everything was muffled and very quiet. Even all the city noises were hushed by the falling snow. Serena pulled out her map again and studied it. On the far side of the map, it showed a small X with the words, Floating Island, formerly here. Why would somebody write that on a map? Sonic, what? She stopped. Sonic wasn't there. She looked around, then down at the snow. Only her own footprints marked the soft powder. Doop, spot, skip, scoop, skip. Somehow she had taken a long turn. I'm lost, she thought. Lost in Robotropolis in a snowstorm. Son! She called piercingly. Her voice didn't carry very far. Shivering, she started walking. I found my way out before. I can do it again, she thought to herself. She walked down a couple of streets without seeing anything familiar. The swirling snow struck her vision, disorienting her. The silence was beginning to get in on her nerves, too. And as who's there? Serena called after a few more minutes of suspense. Motion! Something big and dark. I wonder if it's fucking. Something big and dark came at her out of the shadows. One hand closed on her arm, and with iron strength it pulled her out of hiding and threw her on her face in the snow. Relax.
No.
She automatically rolled over and tried to get up, but suddenly her limbs turned to lead and she couldn't move. She stared up at the dark form. It had one hand extended toward her, pointing at her. The figure made no move, so she asked it, "Who are you?" "Me?" it replied. Its voice was deep and had an evil quality. Uh-oh. Oh. Quality to it that rivaled Robotnik's. Oh, I thought it was Robotnik. It had another quality, too. I can ask you the same question. What are you doing in Robotropolis? Freedom fighter. The question was not kind. None of your beeswax, Serena snapped. The creature made a sound in its throat like a growl. Haven't you figured out who I am? I am Pac Bell. Give me the information I want or I'll kill you. Serena had heard nothing about Pac Bell, or she wouldn't have been as arrogant. Pac Bell? Who's Pac Bell? I ain't never heard of anyone named Pac Bell. I'm Pac Bell, idiot! He roared. He reached up and flicked on a small light protruding from the wall above him. Serena found herself staring up at a human! Oh, fuck. A human. He was dressed in a brown uniform and shiny black boots. Oh, no, it's gotta be Hitler! The light shone on his sandy hair and his harsh features.
Fucking
His
platforms.
eyes seemed to be lit from within by a fierce light. They stared down at Serena intently. She returned his gaze in a moment, but was forced to drop her eyes. Now, he hissed. What are you doing here? What makes you think I'm a freedom fighter? Was the ready retort. Because, Pac Bell replied, you are a fugitive and a spy. I know as well as you what you did to the computer. I should destroy you right here. But I guess I'm Chinese. But Dr. Robotnik wants you alive, if only by a little. Serena struggled. Let me go, she snarled. Why would I do that? Pac Bell replied icily. You escape? What are you holding? He had spotted the map. He snatched it from her grasp and explained it. Well, Pac Bell said dryly. What have we here? A satellite map of Mobius. Where did you get this? She didn't answer him. Where did you get this? Again, no reply. Answer me! Still, she said nothing, which infuriated the android. Wait, what? Is it a human or is it a fucking android, you fuck? Serena's mind was racing. You died again.
God damn.
Serena's mind was racing. How had he paralyzed her like this? It had to be the object he was pointing at her. A little black box with a wire coming out at the end. Like a walkie-talkie. Walkie-talkie. Her radio! For the first time, radio! She remembered it. It was hooked onto her hip, but she couldn't reach it now. Pac Bell was enraged. Speak! He hit her so fast she never saw it coming. It knocked her over sideways onto a snowdrift. It hurt. Serena gritted her teeth and made no sound. Eyes fixed on the thing in Pac-Bell's hand. The big creature kicked her in the side hard. She realized she would probably take a lot of damage before he let her go. You need to finish this level. Should I just stop talking to get past this part?
The whole level is a part.
Well,
There's like no continuables at all.
I thought you were good at this game.
I haven't played in like 15 years, so...
Bullshit! I
kiss
just
my
saw you
ass.
play 2 or 3 like a month ago. I got it for the Genesis, so you played it like at least a year ago. You lie.
You lie. No!
Pac-Bell grabbed her by blah. Lifted her all the way off the ground, then threw her down. Now this was pain. She had landed on the radio. As she rolled off of it with a half-stifled moan, she saw the blue light was on. Immediately she cried, "Help me! Help me! Help me!" It had taken Sonic a bit longer to find out Serena wasn't with him. He had said, "Hey, Rena, keep a lookout."
I think you do need to shut up, because I can't hear what's going on.
Ooh, somebody's pissed.
I'm very fucking pissed.
Well, fucking figure it out.
I need to hear the fucking
Alright, fine. I need to get
sound
water
effects.
anyway, you cunt.
Good. Don't get in my way.
Pause it. That's what the button's for.
No! Gotta go fast.
Where was I?
At a certain point, you do have to be quiet.
Fuck you. Sonic began to run. He ran up and down. Sonic began to run. He ran up and down streets and alleyways, calling Serena's name, until he was so breathless he had to rest. No reply. No sound anywhere, it seemed. He was alone in this dim world of cement, metal, and falling snow. Where is she? He panted into the mist. Breath coming in white clouds. This is all bad. This is as bad as when Tails was lost in the cave. Except this is worse, because I have no idea where Serena is. He took one of the radios that were hung around his waist, clicked it to channel blue, and said, "Serena, are you there?"
Oh my god. Fucking glitch.
Glitch. My controller is broken.
It is broken. I know, Minnie. Even she's getting mad.
Serena, are you there? Static. Blah, 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 blah. The only robot possibly worse was Metal Sonic. Pac-Bell was commander of Robot's army and had a hand in building the Ultra Swats. Sonic skidded into the dark, narrow alley. He saw Pac-Bell standing over Serena's limp form. He had just pulled a gun from its holster. "I see you require a different form of persuasion," Pac-Bell was saying. "Hey, moron!" Sonic shouted. "Why don't you pick on somebody your own size?" Pac-Bell snapped erect. "Hedgehog! I should have figured. You wouldn't let anything happen to your sister, would you?" He fired 3 laser blasts at Sonic. "Man, you need to take safety lessons for that gun," Sonic taunted. "You almost hit me." He crouched down, crossing his arms in front of him. He sprang into the air, activated his super emeralds. Then he stood still.
Fuck all you faggots now.
She painfully got to her feet. Sonic made one lightning quick move, blah, 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 blah. Let's move. Never. Pac-Bell snarled. The city went by in less than 5 minutes. Sonic leveled out again. Chapter 14, plans. Chapter 15, preparation and departure. Fuck this story. I can't handle this anymore.
Finally, shit.
Chapter 26. How Group 2 finished their mission. No. This is so long. Jesus Christ.
I'm almost done.
Oh, there's Robotnik.
Yeah. Now I gotta die 20 more times.
I just wanted to get to Robotnik so I could read his voice as fucking Mr. Plinkett.
Oh.
No. Oh my god. Alright. Chapter 16. I'm just going to skip into the calm before the storm. For several hours, nothing interesting happened. Val 9000 flew the ship smoothly northwest as Knuckles directed Sally, Rotor, ooh, and Bunny how to fly the ship in case of computer failure. He died?
Yeah.
And the best way to handle the mechs. Heading the opposite direction, Slasher was carrying her 3 passengers into the heart of Mobius.
Start this. Really?
Alright, let's just skip to the end. I just want to see if Jesus shows up and fucking saves everybody. Oh god.
What?
I've been reading this for like 2.5 hours anyway. Jesus Christ.
God damn it.
Nah, I'm done. I can't read any more of this shit.
Good.
This
Maybe I can actually get through this fucking game.
epilogue. No, you're done.
No.
Oh, you want to keep playing it?
I just have this and the boss, and I'm done.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm
Alright.
like really close. If I could just get through this fucking bullshit. Oh wow, I didn't get stabbed this time. Whee. Oh, I still got hit though. Fucking hell. Mm. Why did I go down there? Oh, fuck me. Okay, just fucking kill me, please. Thank you.
Little did they know that the dead robot at the bottom of the falls, miles and miles away, would pose a new threat that would test their bonds to the fullest. But that's another story.
Good.
The end. Does this guy have other stories, I wonder? Let's see. Netraptor.
Fucking here. Just get through the damn fucking thing, please.
He's got a lot of them, actually. Ooh, something called the Kinderguardians.
What?
Yep. The Ghost Who Loved. Is there like one that's short? 23,000 plus words. 29,000 words. 3,000 words? 3,000 isn't so bad.
Oh, look at that.
Alright, let's read something that's like 3,000 words, because fuck my ass.
Well, I'm literally at the end.
Yeah. Double Crimson by Netraptor. Come on, Jayish. Jayish, just this once. Carrie wheedled. When was this? There's no years on this either. It just says February 10th. Please? It's the only gift I'm asking for. Her husband, Jayish, sat on their sofa with his shoulders hunched. His complexion was as dark as hers was fair, and at the moment, so was his expression. I've never played any games in the Crucible, he muttered. It's Crimson Doubles this week. This is still too long for me to want to fucking read. Is there something here that's like maybe 200 words? Oh, 953 words. I might be able to read this before you finish. I spent long years searching for my guardian. In my wanderings in the wilderness, I happened to cross groups of humans fleeing the knives of the fallen or dying at their hands. Although I'm only a ghost, I resolved to help with what people I could.
Oh, you little faggot.
In a way, I could stand in the guardian I hadn't found. For the guardian I hadn't found. I couldn't fight, but I could still help. The next group of humans I found were trying to reach the last city with its protective walls. I offered to guide them there, although it was hundreds of miles across rough terrain. But I knew the way, and they didn't. Our journey was a long, cold, hungry one. As the days passed, I struck up a friendship with a young human named Tercel. He was a thin, gangly youth, determined to take a man's responsibility on his bony shoulders after his bony old behind after his father's death at the hands of the fallen. He worked hard and cared for the others, and even more remarkable, complained little. At night, when he had guard duty, he would say, "Tell me stories, ghost! You know such wonderful things." And I regaled him with stories of the traveler's struggles against the darkness, epic battles and costly defeats. Tearsel sighed in bliss. When I found my guardian, I hoped I liked him half as much as I liked Tersel. He respected me for that too. "When you find your guardian," he said wistfully, "I hope I'm still around. I'd like to meet them."
Ha! Fuck you.
Then we talk about guardians and ghosts. Was it over?
Yes.
Alright, good.
I'm like, fucking beat this asshole.
"You are my guardian," I choked and flew into his hands. The end.
So Sonic's gonna be all mad at me.
Oh, there's still more? Fuck.
Say he's fucking pissed because I missed him out.
Fuck you, Sonic!